is an advisory board of citizens appointed by the City Commission. The board is comprised of volunteers who represent the thoughts and concerns of the community. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to make recommendations to the City Commission regarding each item on the agenda. Tonight, we will be conducting public hearing. Therefore, this meeting is open to the public. Anyone in the audience who wishes to give testimony to any of the items on the agenda will need to be sworn in by the city clerk. The swearing-in process will occur after tonight's first agenda item, which will be the approval of no minutes because this is a special meeting. Please be aware that the local planning agency is not a quasi-judicial board and therefore has no final decision-making power. Our procedures, however, are structured in a quasi-judicial manner for the benefit of those who come before it. Tonight's format will be as follows. I will introduce each item on the agenda, after which the city representative will present information about it. Thereafter, the members of the local planning agency will respond to the city representative. Finally, anyone from the public may come forward. Those from the public wishing to give testimony will need to approach the dais, identify themselves, and then utilize the speaker's lectern in order for the comments to be recorded. Upon conclusion of the public hearing, the local planning agency will consider the evidence before it and will vote on the agenda item. That voice vote is the rendition of the order of the board, and there will be no written decision issued by the board. Since there are no meeting minutes, is there anything that we need to swear in on this? This is okay at this time?
Do you swear the testimony you are about to give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. First item on our agenda, Ordinance 22-20, Comprehensive Plan Amendment, updating transportation, conservation, and support service elements, and adding property rights element, staff element, period. Staff recommends approval of Ordinance 22-20. Okay. We have some new members up here, okay? And I need a real good background. I know we're doing a house cleaning kind of a thing, okay? And this is a process that we're going through, but you might explain why and what it is we're going through, okay? So I didn't mean to change how you were going to make your presentation, but I just want you to be aware that this, I think, requires a pretty good explanation from you as to what we're doing here tonight that is so special.
Sure. I guess just to introduce myself, I'm Frances Leong Sharp. I am Planner 2 for the City of Dunedin. And this evening, we are presenting an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan. And I will try to make a brief synopsis of what the board is looking at. So essentially, a comprehensive plan is essentially a blueprint, as you will, of what the city would like to plan in the future. So in this case, the title of our comprehensive plan is titled Strive for 2035. So all of the goals, objectives, and policies that you see in that document are being placed in the vision of hoping to achieve those goals, objectives, and policies by the year 2035. The document in itself, it is a state requirement that each local government to have one. And within that, the state requires us to have specific elements that we need to address as a city. So there are approximately, I want to say, 8 or 9 elements. And as you can see with the amendment that we have here in front of you this evening, there is a recent state bill that was passed in 2021 that requires every local government to include what it's called a property rights element. So within that, we as staff would have to ensure that all of our goals, objectives, and policies are meeting the minimum requirements, as you see in front of you for the example of property rights elements, that these are the specific language, specific requirements that our state required for us to have as a city. Yes.
George Kinney, also with Community Development. If I could add just a few comments to what Frances articulated, she'll get into those plan changes in a moment. But you can kind of think about the comprehensive plan as the overarching policy document. So really, it's full of policy. It's the direction that the citizens have asked that our community go in. And so you'll see a lot of that policy stuff. Most of the things that you guys see as a board fall under the Land Development Code, which is really the implementation mechanism. That's the regulatory ordinance that kind of feeds off the comp plan. So if you kind of think about it in tiers, you have your comp plan, then your regulatory land development code that pulls those policies and makes them into law. And that's kind of what you see when you're reviewing development review cases and those kinds of things. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, George. And as George had mentioned, that is the mechanism. So basically, the comprehensive plan sees the vision for the city at a 30,000 feet level altitude. And our land development code, as it is, as George had interpreted, is the mechanism that we use to implement the comprehensive plan itself. So within this,
Well,
yes.
before you go on further into this, are there any questions that we need to ask of staff to get any clarification on what we're trying to do? Thank you.
So within this amendment that we are proposing under Ordinance 22-20 is that we do have a few things that the city has achieved within our comprehensive plan. On one of which is to implement and adopt a citywide multimodal transportation master plan, and the other one is our sustainability master plan, which is also known as the DREAM Plan. So within that we have updated certain objectives and policies to reflect those changes. So we are essentially, within the packet that you have that is out in front of you, a separate document shows us the strike-through and underline method of the changes that were made to update to reflect that we are moving forward to implement those two master plans that we have adopted this past year, actually. And then along with that, once again, the adoption of the new element that we have into the comprehensive plan, which is the property rights element, as I stated before, are the exact language that we provide based on the state's requirement for that. So essentially, along with the updating of the conservation, transportation, and support services element, we are adding the property rights element as required by the state. And that's basically a housekeeping items that we would like to adopt to be in line with our upcoming evaluation appraisal reporting deadline. So staff does recommend for the approval of the ordinance, and I am open for any questions that you may have.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on the board?
I could ask one anyway.
Well, I've got a couple, so go ahead.
Okay. The property rights element, is there anything in the state's language that is different in meaning to what we already had in plan or practice in Dunedin? Is anything changing?
As far as the language that we were required to have per the state, in looking at our land development code, it does seem, does appear, based upon my review, we are falling consistent in what we're doing based on the language that we have set forth in those policies
Okay.
through the
So,
land development code.
so
Yes.
nothing is changing, basically.
No.
Thank you.
On that same subject, when we're presented with an agenda item, we read a staff report. Will you now put this in as part of your report, that this property rights element, you see no conflicts, or is that important enough for staff to to include it within their presentation? And I'm just, asking.
So I think in your packet is the model ordinance language from the state. That's all we did, Member Massaro. All we did was actually adopt that model ordinance. So it is a new plan element in our comprehensive plan. We didn't have a property rights element before. So we're just simply kind of being consistent with new state regulations and statute.
And I understand, that's good. All I'm saying is, within your report, like you identify certain things that meets this criteria. I guess I'm saying, is this important enough where in your report on each agenda item, you would include this and say, it does meet any of these requirements, or is that just understood that it does?
Oh, I follow you now. So as we're preparing reviews for you
Yes.
against the comprehensive plan.
Sorry.
I mean, certainly we can, I don't know if we've thought that out that far, but we could certainly add an element. We typically try to have a comprehensive plan piece to each of our staffing reports, so we could certainly include the property rights piece as part of that review.
Yeah, like, just lately, you've included compatibility.
correct.
And you've covered, the project as a compatible, whether or not it is or it isn't, and for what reason it is or it isn't.
Right.
Okay? So I guess that's the same thing that I'm asking here.
No, excellent suggestion. I think we should probably look at any relevant piece of the comprehensive plan to any particular project.
Yeah, because I think each time that staff makes a recommendation of something, it's telling us that you all have looked at that and it's good, it works, or there's a problem with it, okay? So, we don't know it as well as staff does, and, you give very good reports on your agenda items, and I'm just making a suggestion that property rights be included in there, because I think property rights is a major issue with what we deal with up here on this board, okay?
No, excellent
Very
comment.
important.
Excellent comment. Well, yes, we will absolutely be mindful of that moving forward with our staffing.
Okay. Did you have something?
I just had one question. And maybe council can help. What spurred this from the state? Is there some sort of case? Did something happen somewhere else? The state decided to just be like, all right, we need something about property rights in all of these municipalities. Like, just like.
So I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the legislative history on this, but my understanding is that the legislature has consistently, throughout probably the last 10 years at least, focused on enhancing and recognizing private property rights. And we've seen that both through the expansion of the Burt-Harris Act and now also the inclusion of this language as mandatory within a local government's comprehensive plan.
Burt-Harris Act? Okay. Thank you.
I was looking at Objective 5.5. 5.5.3, backyard composting. I mean, is that all we can do here under that item? It seems like something extremely simple. Why isn't there more things that we could do?
I mean, at this point, this particular policy was worked with the sustainability coordinator, who is the implementer of the sustainability master plan. And so within that objective, that is the only focus that we have at this time, that she would like us to call out within the comprehensive plan, that's what we are focus in doing.
And I would just add, be mindful, this is just one policy. So there are many more that deal with wastewater, water, sewer, environmental kinds of targets as well. So you only are seeing the one, but if you go in the comp plan, you're going to see.
There's a bunch of
You'll
others.
see a
Yes,
number.
there are
of
multiple policies that are
Okay.
established
All right,
within
because
it. These are only the changes that I've included that we would like to update and reflect based upon the implementation of the plan.
I'm happy there's many more items than just
Yeah.
composting, okay? And the property rights thing, we've talked about that, so I'm good with that. Any other questions from the board?
Yes, one more. Mr. Chairman, thank you. Objective 1.4, there are 4 items there. The first one is will provide adequate staffing and funding to implement a citywide multimodal transportation master plan and coordinating with agencies, et cetera. But 1.4.4 says the city will monitor and update the multimodal transportation master plan to incorporate relevant goals from state and county transportation plans. We're making, it sounds like, a direct statement there that if state and county transportation plans change, we're going to accept it. Not that we're going to consider it, not that we're going to evaluate it, but if it changes in reference to the city of Dunedin, we're just going to accept it. That's the way it reads to me.
Yeah, I mean, couple things here. So the first thing is, the existing language said the same thing, really, because really what it says was we were going to develop the plan with those consistencies. Now we're just saying update and monitor because the plan is adopted. But certainly, I don't know if we couldn't include a clarifier to say as appropriate or as deemed necessary or as it makes sense to the city of Dunedin. I mean, we can figure out some language to include there, I think.
Okay, and then we can add that to the motion?
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Fine, thank you.
Are there any other questions? You good? At this time, I'd like to open this up as a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that would like to come forward and speak on this agenda item? If so, now's the time. And seeing no one running up here, I'll close this portion of the public hearing. And LPA members, anything more, any comments that you want to make on what we have here in front of us, which basically seems like a bunch of housekeeping items that have been made mandatory by, is it the state?
We've had this similar meetings in the past, haven't we? Where you specifically came out and,
So you may notice your ear updates have come pretty close together.
yeah.
It's because we were way late on the last one. So that's why the state basically has your last ear recommendation, and this is just some cleanup to satisfy our ear requirement for this.
I think the one I read about was that compost. How does that trickle down to the citizens of Dunedin? I didn't realize that that's available to teach me what to do, or how does this all filter down to the citizens?
It's really part of that DREAM initiative that Francis was talking about. So there's a sustainability coordinator housed within solid waste. So that's where it's coming from. She's doing, I don't know if you know Natalie or not. Her name's
Spoke before.
Natalie Gass, and I know she's doing her best to get the word out, help people, educate people as they deem appropriate. But certainly, if somebody's interested, call her. I mean, she would love to talk to people and provide information on the current programs and any other things. She's also deeply involved in the solar aspect of things as well.
It just seems like there's so much to get out to the public, whether it be meeting with townhouses, and I know you guys are busy, but condo associations, mobile homes, where you can get a group of people that I'm sure I'm not the only one that didn't realize that there was a person in Dunedin that could help us discuss compost.
Yeah.
Well, on the city website, like on Facebook, there's always something as educational telling us, what the city is doing or recommending. Maybe, some additional highlights that can deal with composting or solar or things of that nature can be, added into that information source that gets out on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Francis actually writes a lot of blogs that go out as part of our communications efforts, so we could certainly, consider that as something to talk about. it would be more on Natalie's side, but we can certainly ask her to think about putting something together.
Yes, so we do have our blog series called Dunedin Insights, which both Natalie and myself have contributed in the past with regards to specific topics. And I think the recent piece that she's done in the last couple of weeks is about recycling. So there are some considerations that we could, pass along to Natalie, that may be one aspect that we would like to share and inform our citizens as well as, businesses about this program.
I mean, it's great that we have all of these good things that we're going to strive to do, but I think Steve is right. I mean, the word has got to get out there to the people, okay?
Absolutely.
Do you piggyback those on, I don't know if it's since, I don't know, hurricane or two ago, or whatever it was. And I don't know if it's because I'm on a board, I get an email, it seems like once a week. So I don't know if that's because I'm a board member, or if those are going out, because I think I see things that are blasted out, and it tells you a little, click on links, it takes you to websites and stuff like that. I don't know, I know not everyone likes to give out their phone numbers and stuff like that, but if you've got kids in any public schools around here, you get blasted with text messages, with links, mostly good ones. Sometimes they're not the best of messages, but you get, follow this link, or it's like click this link for a voice message, and outreaches like that as well. So I don't know if the city does stuff like that, and, I know not everyone likes to get text messages and phone calls, on their personal phones, but just another. Yeah. But it seems like you do piggyback on some of the emails that I think that at least I'm seeing that come out. Okay.
So that is part of the newsletter. So the Dunedin Insights series is included and embedded within the newsletter, as well as I've seen that on Facebook news feeds. Those are rolled out in that manner as well. So you will see a piece each week when the newsletter rolls out of each different topics that ranges from, one of the pieces that I've done is smart growth to sustainability to overlay districts. There's a lot of information that we would love to share to the public to give a little piece of education of what's actually what's going on here.
Yeah.
Well, and in property rights, if your next door neighbor wants to paint their house bright purple, I think that, do I need a permit to do this? Can I plant this type of tree? Can I do this to my house? And I think just the outreach to tamp down any issues that would arise, and this, I guess we rely on you, but yet, we have some responsibility too. And I think I can speak from the majority of Dunedin. We don't want to do anything wrong, but we would like to be told, what we can do and what's correct. And I realize that there's, 38,000 of us that have the same issue. But keep up the good work, and just whatever you can teach us as citizens, that much easier for you for your job.
Absolutely. No, we're here to help our citizens be informed of the available programs, as well as, any specific topics like permitting. We definitely do want to get that word out to everybody so that everybody is aware and also be informed of how the process to take to get to where they want to be.
Right.
And looking at that screen up there, you might want to add TikTok to it, because I don't know, well, I want to think I'm young. I'm not on TikTok, but believe me, my kids are, and they are kind of the future, I suppose.
You'd be surprised the number of people that are on TikTok that aren't kids.
True, very true.
Okay. Are there any further questions of staff on this item? At this time, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance 22-20.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of ordinance 22-20 with the following recommendation for change, and that is objective 1.4.4 would read, the city will monitor and, if appropriate, update the citywide municipal plan.
And is there a second to that motion?
All second?
All in favor of the approval of ordinance 22-20 with the modifications requested, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, okay? Because this is a special meeting, and I'm looking at our attorney, we normally at our meetings, in the final item on our agenda, we have what we call an open discussion. You've been here. You've seen us do that. Is it okay for this special meeting for us to have that open session also, since we have not met in the past 3 or 4 months? You say yes?
Certainly. Mhm.
Okay.
I did if it's okay, I do have a couple for these guys then, or did you have something else today?
I have a bunch of things, but you go ahead.
What about that, I think it was called AVA, that electric transportation? Is that coming back or is that done?
Excellent question. That would be something that we probably will have to follow up with you.
I guess it was just the timing. You know, I think it came in after spring training was done, which would have, you know, at a certain time of the year. The second, is your office also in charge of golf cart management, the licensing and that?
We do the permitting, yes.
Man, I'll tell you,
The registration.
I guess I live downtown, I'm a golf cart owner, but man, I'm seeing a lot of violations. Driving up Alt 19,
So the violations are actually through the sheriff's office. We handle the registration aspect of it, and then we provide them the registration numbers and so forth, and then the sheriff is actually the follow-up.
okay.
So if you're seeing an issue, what we can do, the sheriff's liaison is actually human resources. We can reach out to them and see if we can get a
It just seems like these people are unaware of what they can do. You know, they get to the four-ways at Broadway in Maine, light turns green, and off they go. And I know you can't, because I did get stopped myself a couple of years ago for doing that. And just, again, once that education to the public, you know, not setting them up to get a citation, but, you know, to enjoy themselves, to have fun, and know where and when, you know, they can operate those golf carts. The other thing, coming back to what we talked about with the composting, when we have our blue trash bins, that's the recycle. That's picked up, what is the name of that company that picks up? Is it Waste Pro?
Yes.
That's solid. That's actually
That's like.
solid waste.
Yeah, a
I'm
question
not
that is
sure.
Okay, and then, is the recycle, is that sold? Is that how that works? Then the city has an income from our recycling that we put up? Or what happens with that, in that blue can?
Yeah, we have no idea. So
Okay.
what we can do, though, is maybe ask somebody from solid waste to come to a meeting when we have a light agenda and maybe talk a little bit about the program.
And I guess I did see on the city's, might have been the Facebook page, where it was clearly someone's can had the improper items in it. You know, again, for the third time, you know, proper education to the community. But I just, you know, maybe if people understood that it's a different company, the city does have some income from the sale of that recycle. I don't know the answer.
That one's a little outside of our.
And that's all I had. Your turn.
It would be a good item to cover for us. Okay. I have some issues here that I think are very important, and I guess I apologize here for, first off, mentioning that Diane could not be here this evening to chair this meeting. You got the second team here. Diane's daughter's in the hospital, so she had to be with her daughter. So she is not here tonight, but an excused absence, okay? As many of you know, I've been on this board for 20 years or better. And the first request that I'd kind of like to make is I surely would like to see, hopefully by our next meeting, a new roster. Okay? I don't have a current roster, okay, of who's on, who's off, who are alternates, etc. Okay? All right. That's the first item. The second item, in 2 months, 3 of our 7 members are going to term off because of term limits, okay? In another 12 months or 14 months from now, another 3 board members will term off also. So in 14 months, there will only be basically, are you a permanent member now?
No.
Not yet, you're still an alternate.
That is correct.
Okay, I want to come to the alternates too. Okay, so in 14 months, there's our guy, okay? So Bob, you got it, all right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is after being on this board for 20 years, being as involved as I am with the city, and knowing how important this board is, what we do, what we try and do, what little help I believe we can give staff or the city commission. Everything that we do goes to city commission. So I think we're a great help to city commission. I hear the city commissioners telling me, well, you know, you guys we're watching what you're saying because that helps us when we have to make our decisions. So I think it's kind of sad that in 14 months, we're going to lose 6 of 7 board members, okay? And that's quite a bit of experience. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm politicking for more time on this board. I think I've been here long enough, okay? And I've got 1 more year, so I'm here 1 more year. Sorry, Adam, okay? But, you know, like Adam's going off here, and, you know, this is a great source of information that he brings to this board. So what I want to say next is, first off, one of the things that I really learned being on this board in the 20 years or so that I've been on it, you know, when I first got on this board, I mean, most of the board was comprised of engineers or architectural types, a building official, construction officials. So there was an awful lot of the board members that had some experience that deals with the agenda items that come before us, okay, that the commission looks to us who gives some direction for. So I think it's critical, okay. Now, what I really learned out of this is that there were 1 or 2 people at the time where I was very naive, and I would think, you know, I know this person is in healthcare or whatever it was, and you know, why are they, number one, why would they have an interest in wanting to be on the board? And of course, I understand now. I mean, we want to give of our time to a city that we think a whole bunch about. Okay, so I understand that people want to serve. Okay, the other thing that I did learn is that the people that maybe do not come from a construction or engineering or an architectural or a planning area background, the people that don't come from that background bring something else to this board, and that's, you know, I always call it the odd man hypothesis, okay? It's like, you know, everybody is focused on the engineering kind of things, and all of a sudden you've got somebody with a lot of common sense that says, well, wait a minute, guys, I know you all are in tune to this, but did you ever think of that, okay? And a lot of times that individual, that common sense individual brings a lot to the board. So whatever I say here, please, if you're not in any of those fields that I mentioned, if that's not your background, don't be offended by it. I respect why you're here, okay? So one of the things I would like to go into more detail, and that is about the board, okay? And I don't want to really do it tonight, but I want to set a little information going so that maybe we can get a little research done, because I've got a couple of questions that might be helpful for us to understand how we're going to program ourselves from 14 months from now, okay? So I mentioned, I think the first item that we really need is this roster, okay? And I think that somewhere along the way, we need to, as these members, 3 this year, 3 next year, go off, we're going to have to fill this board with some people. Ideally, it would be nice if we could get an even mix of people with some experience in the trades that I mentioned, and the common sense people. So I don't know why we can't reach out to like that architectural review board and ask any of those people that are on that board. Is that a board or is that a committee?
That's an advisory committee.
An advisory committee. Those are all, architects, I guess in order to be on it, you got to be an architect or a land planner or something of that nature, an engineer. Why aren't we reaching out to some of these other boards or committees that we know they have some experienced people, and let them know that, in 2 months, 3 people are going to need to come on this board. Ideally, it would be nice if we could get some more people with some of the experience that we're going to lose here, okay? So I guess that's my first concern, is that we somehow get out there and identify the fact that this LPA board is going to be looking for new members. And I think the new members that sign up to be chosen, I think we ought to know their backgrounds or experience, so that, some of the, ideally, when we pick a new member, it always has been a board decision that the chairman normally gives us. So we all on this board take part of who we would recommend to the commission to replace one of us as we go off. Am I making sense, or am I?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that's really not our area.
I understand.
We're going to be looking to the city clerk for that kind of.
And I understand it, okay, but this is, this was my opportunity here with this open discussion to make it known that this is a subject for conversation that I really believe this board needs to have, okay? And my recommendation is, I want to go into maybe 2 other little items first, but what I would really like to see us do is maybe put this on as an agenda item for next month. And be prepared to discuss it. Maybe if the city clerk or the attorney or somebody needs to help us respond to some of these issues, then maybe we should do that. But some of the documents that we have in the past, and I'm going to go into them, okay, a little bit. In the, I guess it's our zoning code, 109-10.1, okay, and that's membership of the local planning agency, okay? In that paragraph, 109-10.1, okay, there's some criteria set forth. And I'm going to pick out a sentence right in the middle of this, and it says, alternate members shall be required to have the same qualifications as regular members. The word qualifications, I don't mean to bring this up as just alternate members, but board members. If somebody wrote in here qualifications, I'd like to know what those qualifications are, okay? And there may be none, but we've got that word in there. I'd like to see if there is somebody that can define what they meant when they wrote in here 109.10.1, what qualifications they were referring to, okay? The sentence right after that, it also says in here, in addition, there will be one non-voting school district representative appointed by the school board Now, I'm 20 years. I've never, that's not been in our board, okay? I mean, is that still something that we need to abide by? Maybe it's the attorney that needs to kind of define that for us? And not now, but I mean, that's an item that, I'm looking for some explanation of why it appears in there and we don't have that person, okay? No, I'm not asking you to respond to that. Also, the last paragraph, I'm not quite sure I understand why, but in the last paragraph, it says, anyone interested in serving on the local planning agency must complete a City of Dunedin application, which is fine for boards and committees, and attend at least one local planning agency meeting. I'm at a loss for why that's a recommendation in there, okay? So, I mean, I'd like somebody to respond to that too, if that's possible. I covered that. When we talk about Resolution 16-06, Exhibit A, which are rules and procedures for commissions, commission-appointed non-judicial and boards and committees, non-judicial boards and committees. In that document, one of the first interesting things that I saw here, okay, all members of the committee who speak must be recognized by the chairperson first. Okay. Now, we've been really loose about that, okay? And I really think that's up to the chairperson. If the chairperson feels like that is something that person would like them to be asked first before they speak, that's, I think, up to the chairperson. But I found that kind of interesting. But
The city commission has deemed that all boards and committees follow Robert's Rules of
that's
Order.
in there.
And that is part of Robert's
That
Rules of
is
Order.
it. Well, that's why I'm bringing
Yeah.
that to our attention. Now, I know that when I'm sitting there and Diane is here and we're looking at an agenda item, I always say to Diane, I have a question. Okay, so I'm not knocking any of you all, okay. I think that is the chairman's prerogative as to whether or not she would prefer that to occur from the board members or not. But I just thought it was kind of interesting reading that. Down there, appointment and vacancies. It says here, it is suggested that applicants who have been on the board or committee appointment list, that means people that have signed the city list that says, I want to be on a board, and these are the boards I want to be on. It says, it is suggested that the applicants who have been on the board or committee appointment list the longest be given priority, to be given them an opportunity to serve the city. Okay, now I understand that, but the prime word there is suggested, okay? So if a board is looking for some people that have some experience, and it's important for that board to have some people with experience, I'm talking like even the finance board, okay? I mean, if you're going to be on that finance board, you got to have kind of the wherewithal to understand finances and things of that nature to kind of give our response to the city commission about, their finances. So I think it's important that the word suggested is there, okay? Recommended appointments must be approved by the city commission. Of course, whatever we recommend up here as an appointment for a replacement, an alternate, or a new board member, it needs, the city commission needs to approve it, okay? And of course, it says alternate members should be the first to move up to regular membership. So the board, the commission has the right to accept our suggestions for appointments or not. Okay, so I've kind of said a lot. I hope I didn't bore anybody with what I was saying. I am concerned about what happens 14 months from now. I hope nothing. I hope the next 3 board people we pick up, we're going to have some great common sense people, and we're going to have some great people with some experience within the field. And then in the next 12 months after that, the same thing will happen again. So if there is anyone out there watching out there in TV land that has an interest in wanting to be on the LPA board, now might be a good time to put your application into the city and let it be known that you would like to be on this board. So, Bob, did you say you wanted to say something also on this item?
I can, yeah. I guess I've had the privilege of serving here now for, excuse me, for 5 or 6 years. And one of the things that has become very obvious to me is the value that we have had in this city of people who have been long-serving members and who have not only a great interest in the city, but have an institutional memory of how things got to where we are today. And I see that in the next, well, I guess 14 months, we are going to be losing that institutional memory from the membership on this board. And we are going to have to begin to rely very heavily on the membership, the new members who come on, and also on the staff to help bring up the history of how the issue that we're dealing with at the time has developed and how we got to the point we're at to make these decisions. I understand that there are always concerns about term limits. When the City Commission adopted the new term limits, and that was quite a lengthy process, as I recall, and there was a lot of disagreement about it. I don't think they really, or we really understood at the time that we would arrive at this point and lose 6 members of the board within 12 months.
14 months.
Well, from here, yeah, 14 months. So I think that's really a shame that it's working out that way. And I would hope that the City Commission will work with us, and very pleased to hear the Vice Chairman say what he's been saying, to reestablish membership on the board in a quick and hopefully in a manner of people extremely interested in the future of this community. We have 2 alternate members. At one point, I was the longest serving alternate, I think, in the history of the city. But we have 2 alternate members who are learning what this board is about and participating in the work that we do. And we're going to need more people who are willing to do that. So I just want to accent, what the Vice Chairman is saying, and identify how important this board is, as he has indicated, to the future of this community. And so what we do is going to be essential in the next few years. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else like to say anything?
I guess we're set up to meet 2 weeks from tonight. Is there anything on a November agenda as of right now?
No.
And I know historically, December, we've had a lot of Decembers, we've not had anything. Do you foresee anything on the December?
I don't. The only thing I know, and Joey can help me out, the only thing I know that's in the hopper right now is the Causeway Hotel Benedict, where the restaurant's out in front. They're going to have to amend that development agreement. I know they're working on that. And I think Fenway's also working on an amended development agreement, but we're not to a point where we can announce a meeting for those yet.
Because not to really make this, put a dark cloud over it, this could be the last meeting.
Well,
Forgive me, there are 3 annexations coming.
Okay, okay.
Is the city hall going to be open so I can get at least one meeting in that building?
At least see the inside.
I don't know.
Well, I'll be at these in the future, I can tell you that, and I'll probably be standing at that thing right there, giving my 2 cents like I've given my 2 cents here.
Absolutely. I
So
mean,
that's the best, and then maybe after a couple years of sitting up, I'll put my name back on because we're allowed to do that.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of my 2 cents. And to give some numbers on it, I think what's leaving is 20 years, 20 years, 10 years, 10 years, and maybe 10 years. That's 70 years of people spending some time up here. So that's it, to piggyback off that, that's a lot of time, so.
One of the things that in industry, you will see a handbook of, an operations handbook, which is direction for a new person that comes into a program, be it a whatever program, an engineering program, whatever. And it gives them the history, and it's a guidebook, if you will. And no boards or committees in the city that I'm aware of have anything like that. And I think that's something that we're going to find that we're seriously lacking is direction, because so many people are going to be leaving, direction for the new guy.
Great point, and we've actually discussed that internally, both with the clerk's office and internally within our department, and I strongly feel an orientation is appropriate for anybody that's coming into a new board. So that's something we're going to look at doing, and getting people the right documents, the comprehensive plan, the land development code, making sure if they have questions, bring them into the office, make sure, for a half day or a full day, and completely orient them to what the expectations are, kind of show them what staff reports look like, what goes into those staff reports. So we have been talking about that as a staff, but as you know, we're a small staff, so, we have to prioritize our time, but it's certainly something that we feel strongly about.
But one of the things you have to be very careful about with that, when each of us came on, we received the code.
Paper form.
Paper form code. And this handbook can't be everything just thrown in there and saying, okay, guys, read it, there you go. It has to be something more than that. It has to be a concise, this is our operational plan. This is how we do things on this particular board. These are the do's and don'ts. Because it's very easy to overwhelm a new person when they come in if you give them the code book and say, here, go read.
That book probably weighed 25 pounds.
Oh, it did.
It
really did.
It was like, see you next week, yeah.
To piggyback kind of what you're saying, and it's good to hear that you've had these internal conversations. And I know way back at the beginning on some of the case, some of the stuff that came in front of us, when they printed everything and we got everything printed. And now I know, I'm not sure how far back the database goes online, but you can click on minutes and see minutes of all of these things. But when things do come up, and it may be a part of your conversations, that links to those minutes and conversations are available per like you said, Fenway's coming back up with something. Well, by the time, that may come before the end of the year, but next year you're going to have 3 new people that won't know a whole lot of what, if that Fenway thing went on for years, if I remember correctly. So obviously, and I'm sure that's what you're referring to, like links to those minutes and stuff like that be available for people to do a quick, deep dive in the history of it, and, on a kind of case-by-case basis. Because like you said, you can't just put a book together for the last 20 years of what Dan's been doing and say, here, catch up. It's just not possible. So
Absolutely an excellent point. Yeah.
As one of the new common sense people, certainly I could use something like a handbook, but that would be a lot of work. So maybe a half-a-day workshop, something like that would be very, very useful. Because I go online and look at the code and go, oh boy. So,
Yeah, I do that.
yeah, as I say, even with experience,
I think
We
pre-COVID.
do the same thing. We go on, we're like, oh boy.
I think pre-COVID, we were scheduled to have a meeting about Robert's Rules. I want to say there was one that was talked about, and the only thing we got was about sunshine law.
Yeah.
We had that, but not, and that would have been very important. At that time, I was chair of another committee, and, That's, we're all volunteers and, here you go. So,
Are we kind of in the same line of thought about asking whether or not we could have this as an agenda item on our next meeting?
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
I am curious as to what we would accomplish to have conversation about it, because this isn't the group that could make a different decision.
No,
No?
no, but as our vice chair indicated earlier, city commission listens to everything we say.
Okay.
And that is our method to tell city commission what we believe is necessary to continue this board in the fashion it has in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Super.
So we're all in agreement? So, Attorney, we do have the ability as a full board to ask for a specific item to be placed on an agenda without offending anybody?
Well, you obviously can put it on the agenda. You also, because you have an open discussion, so, I mean, this can be one of the items that's under there where during your open discussion, you're going to talk about your recommendations for educating a future board in filling in your shoes. Absolutely.
Well, I know we have the ability to do that in our open sessions at the end of an agenda. I'm concerned that maybe next month, November, there won't be any items to make a meeting or have a meeting. And I guess my concern was, can we ask for that meeting to occur by placing at least this item on the agenda?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you could ask for this item to be on an agenda.
Of course, you all set the agenda.
Are we all in agreement? Do we need to make a vote on that, or is our agreeing conversation sufficient enough?
You by consensus agreed that you want to see this item on the next agenda.
Okay.
And did you say there is going to be one because there's 3 annexations? or-
Well,
We'll have those ready for next month.
Oh, gotcha.
They're probably going to be,
Consistency now, we have to advertise and finish the staffing.
yeah, and that's the other issue. We've got a little system problem right now, so advertising's a little tougher
I
than.
mean, that's why I'm saying regardless of whether or not there are any other items, that this item be an agenda item for a meeting. And we know that meeting then will occur, because that may be your last one,
Yep.
okay? Okay. Thank you, staff, our city attorney, clerk, and all of our new members and our existing members for putting up with my ranting and raving, but it is truly out of a concern that the LPA remains a very strong board that the city commission can rely on to help them to make the decisions that they need to make, okay? They make the final decision. We don't, okay? So if there's anything else open in this open discussion, are there any other topics of conversation?
No.
I'll entertain a motion to end this meeting. Is it,
You can take public comment if you'd like.
and state your name, please, for the record?
Sure. My name is Charlie Flatley. I live at 1432 San Mateo Drive, and I happen to have an application in for your LPA. Part of that application process is attending a meeting, so I wanted to have it on record that I have attended today.
Well, I'm glad you did that, because that's important, because that's the way some paragraph is written here,
Exactly.
okay?
That's,
Don't know
that's what
why.
I wanted to say, and I was happy you brought it up.
You've responded, and you've made record of the fact that you're here, okay? And that's
Exactly.
important.
It
okay?
is actually my third meeting I've attended. I've attended in the background just to sit and
I
and
think-
observe so I could see and hear what was going on and learn. Because as you spoke earlier, I do not have a background in building or anything of that nature. I have a management background by nature for 36 years and been living in the city for 20 years and absolutely love it and want to serve it. And I thought this
Obviously-
would be a great way of doing it. But
obviously you have a strong interest in our city and what we do, and I added common sense people to this, okay? Not
Hopefully I have some common sense that I
necessarily
can bring to the
technical
board.
people, okay? So,
But just wanted to thank you guys for everything that you do also, and, because I am, like I said, I've watched three different meetings now, and am impressed by what goes on and all of the questions asked, and would like to be involved.
thank you, Charlie.
I thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Is there a motion to,
I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
is there a second?
Second that motion? I can second the motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. And I don't know when, I guess the next meeting, we programmed it, so it is October. Okay.
November 9th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Adam, sorry for having.